Welcome to WeTM, where not only do we talk music, but we get to know the artists behind the music. Today, you're with the one and only JB The Truth, and I got a real one in the building with me. A true artist in every sense of the word, someone who makes music for the love of it and can harmonize with the best of them, where music, soul, relationships, and pain meet for sounds of relatability and connection. Someone who loves Houston, maybe even more than me, which I thought was impossible. The gifted and incredibly hardworking Ejay Mallard.
Nice to meet you, man. Thank y'all for having me, man. I'm blessed to be here. And yeah, I probably do love Houston more than you too.
Yeah. You got the Houston hat
I'm
on.
always repping, baby. Always
official
repping
for it.
north side, baby.
Yeah, man. So how you feeling, man? How your day been so far and all that?
It's been good, man. Busy. Everything's always busy, but I try to, keep a level head, stay balanced. With that, man, every day above ground is a good day. That's how I see it. So
That's
blessed to be here.
That's a fact. I love that. We're happy that you're here too.
I appreciate y'all.
I've got to see you recently perform. I've actually seen you perform twice now.
Yeah.
And you put on a great performance. You know, you had your band with you. Sion was with you.
Yeah, big shout out to Sion.
And y'all definitely put on a show. Walk me through that process of the emotions going into a show and then how you're feeling when you're actually on stage performing.
Yeah, for sure. So full time, actually, I work for Live Nation, so I get a full understanding of like how advancing and ticketing and putting on an actual show, what that takes.
Yeah.
So the precursor to everything is always like the less stressful because I do it full time anyway.
Okay.
It's always the most stressful. I think the most anxiety ridden when I'm about to step on stage. That's when like the anxiety starts to kick in. But once I'm there on stage, it like immediately goes away.
Yeah.
Like it's so like translucent. But like for me, man, since I do it full time, I don't really have a lot of anxiety in terms of preparation and in terms of like rehearsals and stuff like that. I see it every day. I do it every day for work. So it just kind of translates to my own career. And then beyond that, once I'm on stage, like I then see the crowd and I'm like, oh shit, like this is about to happen. It's inevitable kind of, so you can't, either you're going to chicken up or do what you got to do. So for me, man, I just try to act like I'm in my restroom or act like I'm in my living room, just being myself, be free. Try to act like no one's there. I'm just having a good time, like I'm just lamenting in the shower or something.
Yeah, that's a fact. It definitely looked like you had a good time.
Yeah.
I didn't see any nerves at all. You were comfortable. You had that aura to you of the R&B singer, serenading everybody. So that's a vibe for sure. I always thought it would definitely be the opposite of it's the nerves before the preparation, and then when you get up there, it's you kind of get into that aura, that alter ego of your artist. And this time you had a live band with you, which was different than the first time I saw you. What's the differences between preparing and performing when you have a DJ versus when you have that live band that you're performing with?
So typically I run my own sound, like even beyond the DJ. So I'll have like my laptop and DI boxes and shit like that. Sorry if I can cuss, but
no, you good.
I have like DI boxes, so I'll usually typically run my own sound. But when I do have a DJ, it's just tracks. So the main thing is just rehearsals, ensuring, everything is synchronized, everything is, smooth transitions. I try to do a sequencing in order that makes sense. For those who don't know, sequencing, just the order of how the songs are placed. But just trying to do something that makes sense in terms of transitions, in terms of, genre, mood, and feel. Giving the crowd actually like an experience rather than just a show. And then when it comes to the band, man, that's even more rehearsal. So you got to, take a little bit more time out especially for the band members to learn the pieces and then get together, ensuring that all, is cohesive. And then beyond that, we, try to do a little sound check to make sure levels and everything is already, cadenced out. So it's a little bit more work when you have the band in play. Shout out to the band, Matt Cobb. He and I actually have been, the guitarist, Matt Cobb and I went to high school together. So,
wow.
Yeah, we've been doing this together for about 2014, 10 years now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been, fun to continue to work with him. But yeah, the band, it takes a little bit more time, a little bit more preparation, but it's kind of necessarily the same thing. Once you have the sounds and the levels right, you just want to ensure that everything just runs smoothly from there.
Yeah, no, and your guitarist, he
cold.
cold.
That's the John Lennon of the city,
cold.
boy. Like
he hit a couple of solos, and I was like, wait a minute,
bro. That's our me and him did All of Me, that John Legend track. For like we had like we was in choir together, so he and I were my choir director. Shout out to Joe Weir. He would always piece us together. Like you'll sing, you play the guitar, or you sing. We had another guy named Corbin. He would play the piano. He was like, you sing, you play the piano, but he would always try to piece us together for the last part of the show because
he knew what Imagine
was. he knew it was about to be grand.
Right. I like that. That's dope. And speaking of choir, so you grew up in the choir in different choirs. You definitely have a very dynamic voice. You can transition between different ranges very well. Is there anything that you do either on your off time or before a show, like stuff that you learn from choir to kind of keep up the quality of your voice?
Yeah. Like a lot of the stuff came from choir. So we sung in German, sung in French. We had like different pieces that we would sing. Again, it was just we going up. Our choir director was the TMEA, Texas Music Educators Association. He was the director of that. So like he made sure everyone knew the like concert and competition music in advance. We would practice it, like drilled it in our heads. So it was just kind of like that same kind of stuff just translated over to, it was one song we had, it was just literally birds whispering, but like I took that same concept and did it in one of my songs. It was just like seeing how easily things can be done on a more professional concert and orchestratic kind of way. And then just translating that to R&B. But even now, Sion's a vocal coach. Nice. So she serves as a vocal coach for me. She gives me a lot of warm-ups, a lot of tips, just to improve my range, improve my falsetto, improve the quality of my music in terms of, my vocal capabilities. And then I just gotta ensure that I'm practicing that when I'm on the road. I got like little vocal warm-ups that I'm doing on the way to the show. When I get there, I'm probably doing a couple more. Got like throat spray. Like I got the whole,
you taking it seriously?
Yeah, I got the whole nine. I got the lozenges. You got to make your throat go numb and all that. It's a lot of work that goes into it. But it's just ensuring that your voice can continue to carry, especially like once you get to a more professional range when it turns to like touring. A lot of folks don't they tell you not to sing, not to talk, even when you're warming up, because it'll start messing up your vocal cords. So we're literally just in the shower, turn all that steam. I'm literally just humming. I'm just, and just making sure that, the soft palate is active, all that stuff. So yeah, a lot of the stuff that I learned in choir, I learned from Sion, just translates now to, my preparation work that I do right before a show.
Yeah, that's impressive. That takes a lot of discipline to do that consistently. Like, okay, I know I have a show coming up, so I have to do A, B, C, D,
every time,
all the way to G for all the things that you just named. Did you know when you were in choir back in those days? Did you know that you wanted to eventually transition to do music?
Yes and no. So like I was doing music. I met John. Shout out to John Allen Stevens at Third Coast Records. I met him in 2013. So he and I've been working a little over, I think, 11 years now. Is that 11 years? Yeah. A little over 11 years now. But we that was my first time ever being in like a professional studio.
Okay.
So beyond that, I was like, always writing, always thinking that I could, do this. But I was like, I can't find a studio that, matches my sound, my quality. It's going to ensure that everything sounds the way I want it to sound. Because I'm a big perfectionist. And I think that was the missing piece. It's like I had to find a studio that would, take me in and I can consider this a home. And I've been working with John now for 11 years. So it turned out beautifully. But I think that was like my biggest thing is like, I can do it while I was in choir, but I just I didn't have the resources.
Right.
Once I found the resources, me and John actually, I went to Tascasita, John went to Kingwood. So it was literally like we were right down the street this whole time from each other and never even knew. And Matt, thank God, he connected me with John. So it was just a small world of he was like, hey man, you trying to actually really do this? And I was like, yeah. He was like, I got a studio for you. And he was like, I'm gonna introduce you, I went there the first time I went there, man, we made magic. And I was like, yeah, I'm staying here forever. I've been bouncing around. He's been bouncing around from different studios, he didn't change locations, but I've been with him ever since.
That's dope. That you found someone that was good for y'all's fit. Y'all both have the vision and y'all just stuck together and did it. And it definitely comes through the music. It comes through the performance of that preparation and just the quality of the music. after the show the next day, I always know a good song when I can't get the harmony out of my head. And the next day I'm at work, I could have, but I didn't. So someone sent me an email, you know, it's literally stuck in my head throughout the whole entire day. When you were making I Could Have, did you know it was going to be a hit? Did y'all feel that in the studio?
We made it in 30 minutes, bro. And to tell you the truth, John made the beat, like he made the beat prior to me coming to the studio. So I typically, when I go to the studio, just give you full disclosure, I'm there for 8 hours a day. I consider it work, you know. So nice. I'm there from 10 to 6 or 11 to 7. We have a 1 hour lunch, but I'm there all day. Yeah. And John made that beat prior to me even coming, but he just forgot to show it to me in the session. Mm-hmm. So I'm literally, we walking out and he plays it and I'm like, bro, I already got the hook. Yeah. And he was like, bro, let's just write it real quick. Let's just knock it out. Right. So I recorded the hook. Well, I wrote the hook, excuse me, and I was like, man, I could have, but I did. I didn't have the full word. I could have. He was like, yeah, that's a hit, bro. Like we gotta, and then we recorded like a little mini clip to it just to ensure that we, you know, remember the cadences and everything. A month later, I came back to the studio, recorded it officially. Once I had my homie Mike, he was ready to get his verse on there. But after that, man, I was like, yeah, this the one. And we sat on it for a long time. Like we didn't even put it out at the completion and mixing, mastering of it. We sat on that track for a while because we wanted to make sure the timing was right. Okay. And once we did, bro, we're thankful. It's almost at 100,000 on Spotify. I think we just passed 75,000 on Apple Music. So congrats. Yeah, it was all about timing for us, and we wanted to ensure that what we did made sense, you know. But yeah, we knew it was a hit. We knew this was gonna be the one. It's a classic funk, neo soul, and R&B, little jazz bop that we want to, even moving forward, want to stay consistent with
that sound.
Yeah.
No, I like that, and I hear that story a lot with artists where it's like some of the biggest and some of their favorite songs were made kind of instantly or in your creative process. I assume from your lyrics that you're more you like to sit down and kind of write it out, or are you more of a just kind of punch in, catch a feeling, catch a vibe?
I don't like punching in. I tried it once. I'm shout out to Lil Wayne, but I feel like he was very spot on when he was like, R&B artists got to have a subject and a like a beat. Right. You know, it has to make sense. You know what I'm saying? Excuse me. But with that, I was like, yeah, I tried punching in before, and it didn't sound like me anymore. It just sounded like I was saying things that really weren't cohesive. And I like to tell stories. I like to ensure that the verse actually matches the chorus. Like, you know what I'm saying? So when you listen to I Could Have, she be coming to me for the hell of it. Right. And then it goes into like, I could have, but I didn't, because it translates the story. Even with Mike's verse, I was like, we went through his verse like twice. I was like, oh, I don't like that, change it. And he wrote it again, because it has to make sense for me. And that's what I'm really big on, especially when I'm writing. It's like, how can this make sense, especially in the terms of relatability? Because when you hear it, or when someone else hears it, or, you know what I'm saying, I want it to make sense to them as well, not just my story. I want to, kind of I want them to step into my shoes and kind of experience the same thing. Like, oh, she also be coming at me for the hell of it.
For the hell of it. For the hell of it.
She ain't even got no evidence. Right. Oh, that does make sense.
Yeah. And had all the opportunities to do what you accused me of, and I was just being a good boy.
I could have, but I didn't.
I didn't. And that whole... First of all, I thank you for the whole album of just being vulnerable and talking about your own stories and having those songs that are so relatable. Another one that's very relatable to me is Trippin'.
Yeah.
I felt like
that
you
liquor
were talking.
Get inside of you.
Is he where the
here?
cameras at? How you know what's going on over here? Man, I need a part 2. I need a part 3.
It's coming, low key. It's coming. Trippin' part 2 is coming. Yeah. It's gonna be crazy.
Well, I like it. One of your pettiest songs off that album.
Oh, I'm already knowing.
Frequency.
Yeah.
You already knew I was going there?
Yeah.
I got to know, is that based in any type of real life?
That's a true story. Well, not a true story. We didn't want to get too there, but I had a relationship with a woman, and she grabs the steering wheel because she wanted to smoke like so bad. It was just kind of like a very eye revealing thing. But to me, I wanted to make it not that. I wanted to make it, again, relatable.
Yeah.
But I feel like every guy is always in the car like, yeah, bro, you kind of getting on my nerves right now.
Right.
And I would rather you play something that's gonna help me get into my mode, help me calm down, rather than me hearing we outside tonight. Shout out to B King. Rest in peace, B King.
And that's rest in peace, B King. And that's funny. I took a whole different perspective of it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we're talking about it, because I saw it from the perspective of, okay, you're on a date or you're going somewhere with your shorty, and she wants to play love music, but you want to play kind of the more of the toxic R&B or the.
It's a hit or miss
future.
with both. With like that's kind of what we were trying to not muddy the waters, but stay not too close from my story, but not too far from that story as well, because that's the relatable one, what you're talking about. And I felt like that's what I wanted to ensure that folks could relate to in terms of like, hey, we driving, you playing these kind of Summer Walker, Janae songs, and I want to hear, I don't know, some rap or something. Anything other than that.
Right. No, I get it.
But it makes sense. But we tried to, stay close to my story as possibly we could without revealing too much, but then stay close to the relatable story as well without revealing too much. So it made sense. Yeah, but that is probably the most pettiest song. It's funny. Everyone loved it. They be like, yeah, bro, this is so relatable because it's funny.
Yeah, it is funny. And I like that approach of it, of kind of leaving a little bit muddy so people can connect to it in different ways.
They figure out their own path when you can kind of leave those open gaps to they can feel it in themselves, in my opinion.
Right. No, that's definitely dope. When you're coming up with songs, obviously relatability is very important to you. Do you have any songs that you wrote that weren't as relatable as others that you held back from because you feel like
my biggest song right now is not my favorite song. Drake and Drive is probably the biggest song I probably ever had in my career thus far. But I don't think it's a relatable track. I don't think it's something that I personally would have put out. I just think it was just for the time being to get music out.
Yeah.
Another probably being Things a Player Would Say. Every Houston man has a mouthpiece, and I feel like, we're going to use it to our advantage. That's just us and our nature and our culture. That's what we were birthed with. But it was just, something that I felt personally, it wasn't me. I can talk. I got a mouthpiece on me, but it's just something that I don't take advantage of. I'm a one-woman man, so it's just something that I didn't want to like really lean into and give people the interpretation that I was, a player, I guess. But again, it's terms of relatability, especially being in the city. Like Things a Player Would Say, this is definitely a Houston player environment. So it's kind of like blending into that. So in terms of relatability, it still made sense. But in terms of like authenticity, I think that's where we kind of muddied the waters a little bit for those two tracks.
How do you balance that? Like being authentic to who you are as a person and what the music you want to put out versus relatability and giving people songs that you think they'll want to hear.
It's like an art gallery. That's like how I look at it. Like I treat all my music like art gallery. And when you in an art gallery, you don't see the same pieces. So I'm always, cleaning up, refining. I done pulled a lot of tracks down, and people would like still to this day be like, man, why you take this song off there? This is how I see it. Like I treat this like a museum, treat this like an art gallery, and when certain pieces just have to make sense together, certain, everything has to look cohesive in terms of a package. You don't walk into an art gallery and see like, something right here and then there's some totally field left thing over here, and it doesn't really blend together. Like, why is this here and that's over there? It's contradicting. So I treat everything like it's actual museum. Like people are stepping inside of something that they wish to experience.
I like that. What's your favorite type of, if we're walking into the art gallery of Ejay Mallard, what's your favorite type of art in a music sense?
For me, man, I think the most authentic, the most vulnerable, the ones that's telling the God honest truth. That's the pieces that I love the most. I try not to like water things down or hide, or I think Trippin' was a like spot on experience. Like that was, that's the God honest. Like that, even another track like Therapy, that's the God honest. So it's just like when a black man gets vulnerable, that's the God honest. So I was like, for me, that's the pieces that I like to see. And you guys will continue to see moving forward, because it makes more sense to me, but it also makes more sense to the other people. I feel like a lot of times, even with the music industry nowadays, people are hiding behind facades, and you lose a lot of authenticity, get these kind of cookie cutter acts that really don't have any longevity. And I think that's the difference now. It's not talent. Like folks aren't looking for talent. They're looking for an actual connection. They're looking for actual authenticity rather than someone telling them like, oh, I do this, da, 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 da. Like they're looking for a person who's going to actually be genuine. I think those acts are going to last, are going to cut through the cloth and like really, be there for the long run. So that's literally my whole motif now is just how can I be as honest and vulnerable as I possibly can.
That's dope. Have you always had that courage to be vulnerable? Because that takes a certain amount of courage.
I'm a very outspoken person. I will say no. I had a huge identity crisis in college and undergrad, and I think that was like what really got me to this point now. But when it comes to like being open and honest about my life, about what's going on, I don't hide behind anything. I'm gonna tell you exactly how it is. If you don't like it, tough. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to, cater to your feelings.
Right.
But it's in terms of like being authentic and vulnerable in that sense, I think that after undergrad is when I really realized like, hey man, you were living behind a facade, like I was just explaining, and you were trying to make people just like you.
Yeah.
In the sense of saying these lies and telling these people these different things. And it didn't even make sense. Like just be you. And if they like you, they like you. If they don't, they don't.
Yeah.
And be okay with that fact. And that's what I had to accept. So after undergrad, like around 21, 22, I was like, yeah, this from moving forward, this is who I am. And if you don't like it, tough. I'm gonna be me in every room. I'm gonna act. I got ADHD, so I'm gonna be an ADHD insomniac. This is who I am. And if you don't like it, then I'm not here to, make you comfortable.
And you can even see it. One, you can see the people like you who are being authentic. Yeah. And I agree with you that the people who are more authentic are the ones who are going to last because you're being true to yourself.
Yeah.
And then you can also see the people who, I don't even want to say it's gimmicky, but you can see that it's more of an alter ego, or it's more of they're trying to do something to get the views, get the likes. And I worry about them of, okay, you put that mask on, now you can never take that mask off and be who you actually are.
My mom would always say, like, when you tell one lie, you have to, continue to tell more and more lies to, ensure that the first lie still sounds believable. And I treat it the same way. It's like you put this mask on, you have to continue doing that over and over and over and over again, because you can't backtrack and say, oh, I'm not that anymore. And then once you do, and when folks typically try to get to that point, it's like, oh, I'm not that anymore. If I grab, it kind of takes all of the fans who were attached to that away.
Yeah.
And so you lose a lot of part. Like, just be honest and open and upfront from the beginning, and whoever gonna cater to it, gonna gravitate to it.
Right. No, that's a fact. Do you have now with that power and with that responsibility, also there's a double-edged sword of it, because you're talking about personal things, and obviously you have relationships, family, friends, romantic relationships in your life. Do you ever get any backlash from them or follow-up arguments from something that you end up putting out in the song?
Nah, not necessarily. Like, you'll hear the one-off comments. I mentioned my mom and stuff like that, and me and my mom kind of have a struggling relationship. I love my mom to death, and I think every child should, but me and my mom have a very struggling relationship in terms of just like the way we connect. We're so much alike that we clash. We have very big personalities, and I think that's the hugest thing in terms of like what we, why we clash. I often get the one-off comments like, "Oh, why are you talking about that?" And it's like, this is the truth. Like, know it. You don't try to hide behind it now because it's out there.
Yeah.
And even with relationships and stuff like that. Like, I'm currently in a relationship now, but I think that's the thing. Like, she understands that this is what he came from. You know what I'm saying? He's not bringing this with him. This is just his way of venting. This is my playground in a sense. This is me being a child again. So my girlfriend, very, very much so, she pushes me to get in the studio. She pushes me to write because it's a way of venting. She realizes it's a way of venting. I'm almost 2 months sober now, and because of her.
Nice.
So it's a blessing now that she recognizes that this is his art, his little muse. Like, this is what he can do to his canvas to, get all of the things that he needs to say and feel out, to where he doesn't bring it into our relationship, and he can be himself here without all of that. So I thank her a lot for that too. She's a commendable woman. But even beyond that, just past relationships, I've never God forbid, but I've never had, someone come to me like, oh, you brought this up in a song.
Good.
But
good.
it does like always haunts me, I guess, because I'm speaking about someone that I now have said I'm done with.
Right.
And now I'm writing about you. So I don't want you to get the interpretation that I'm still thinking about you. This is just me letting it go.
Right.
And I always say my best song, my best song is my worst song, or my new song is my like worst song, because it's like the best thing I ever wrote is the worst thing I ever wrote, because I'm always trying to get past that hill.
Wait, break that down for me again. So you're saying your newest, the songs you make are your worst songs, because what's next to come is gonna be better than what you already wrote.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's it's always me just trying to get over a hill. It's like I have to get this out first. Like you can't. I treat everything in phases. Like life is a phase. Like we all grow at an age as a phase. So like if I write this now, this was just a portion or a deposit in the sense of what I was going through then. The next, like that's over now. You know what I'm saying? So like the next thing, I have to have more experiences, more moments, be in places like this to where I can write something else. And I pray that it's going to be even better than what was the last thing, because that's over now. Like I can't go back and be like, oh, I got to get back in that relationship so I can have some more stuff to write about.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's just toxic. So I'm always, even now, speaking of relationships, it's like, I'm in a great positive relationship right now. And a lot of the music you hear is very sad, very somber, sometimes very toxic. And it's hard to write when you're in a positive environment about bad things going on. So now the next project, we'll get into that, but it's more positive. Like you'll actually be like, oh yeah, this man is actually writing not only just good music, positive music, but it's like, it's better than that.
Right. And it's authentic to you, like you've been doing. It's where you are. Because when you were saying that, I noticed how much of a factor it is of your music being your ability to vent and to be able to kind of overcome and put things in the past that you've been through.
Exactly.
And I think that's beautiful. So I was wondering, I was like, well, can you write about things that you aren't currently feeling? Like if you're in love, can you write about heartbreak or heartbreak?
I can write about, like, in my relationship now, I love this woman to death, and I can talk about everything. Like this passion comes from pain. And she understands that, like everyone around me understands that. Like this passion, the way I speak, the way I carry myself, the music that you hear, it is birthed from pain. So a lot of this is going to be very, very sometimes often. Tell people I make happy, sad songs. Like I could have, but I didn't. It's a very upbeat track, but it's very, very sad, because there was a lot of situations where I was getting blamed for a lot of things just because of who the person that I was. You know what I'm saying? He a noob on campus, and a lot of, girls wanted to be with the noobs and da-da-da-da. And it was just like, oh, hey, like I could have, but I didn't. And I had to take that pain and champion it into a song. So beyond that, now being in love, being in a happy environment, it kind of, puts turns the tables, and it's like, now I have to write about like affection, right, and devotion, and wanting and pursuing a woman in the positive manner. So that's what you're gonna hear a lot in these new tracks. But that passion previously was born from pain.
That's deep, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. Outside of the music, obviously, inside the music, you talk a lot about the struggles of relationships, and even us speaking now, you've shared some of your history about some of the maybe more toxic relationships you had in the past compared to your very healthy relationship now. What are some things that you think are important in relationships to have a healthy relationship?
Communication is the biggest thing. Still working on that. It's a everyday struggle. But communication, I think a lot of men, especially in terms of vulnerability, don't open up enough about how we feel in terms of a situation. We just kind of, get the blows and like, okay, how can I cater to what's going on for her to make her feel comfortable? And a lot of the things that my girlfriend now has done is she's ensuring that I express my side of the story or how I'm feeling as well. She just doesn't want a half-baked cake. In my opinion, I think she sees it as that we are a whole, and in order for us to make this whole continue, we can't just have what I want. We have to, balance that with what you want as well. So just open communication, vulnerability, I speak primarily for men. I don't like to speak on what women should and shouldn't do. I don't like to champion what they can and can't say. But specifically for men, I think just being open and honest. And I think that comes with a grain of salt, because you can be honest, but you cannot be righteous. And a lot of men be like, oh, I was upfront with her. I told her I didn't want a relationship. That doesn't make you a good person. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't make you a righteous man. And I think a lot of men have to get over that hill too. Just because you're honest doesn't make you righteous. You have to learn how to balance those things. So I think that's the main thing. You got to understand that your honesty has to be done with good intention.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest thing is, if I'm going to be honest with you, I'm telling you this for a reason. I'm telling you this not just for your help. I'm not just telling you this for my help. I'm telling you this because this has to lead to something. There's an action item coming from what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And do you, as far as relationships, how do you balance like being an artist versus like maintaining those meaningful relationships? Well, it sounds like you have a schedule. I know a lot of people like to be in the studio till 3, 4 a.m. at night, but it sounds like you kind of have more of a handle on that.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. So again, I have insomnia, so it kind of helps. But I work full time, so I'm up at about 7 in the morning for work. Probably don't get off till probably like 6, 7. I work with long hours sometimes because I have a lot of my developers are in New Delhi in India. Okay. So trying to ensure that I have stuff ready for them when they start to get online, or when they start to wake up. Right. A lot of even my late night meetings are at 11, 12 my time, because they're in New Delhi. That's their morning. But yeah, it's scheduling. That's my biggest thing. I adopted this behavior in undergrad, and every day it's just like I'm writing down. I split it up: PMW, not pussy, money, weed, personal, music, work. Okay. So like my personal life is everything that I have to do in terms of, balancing relationships, little errands you got to run, music, what I need to do today in terms of what my music career, what I need to do in terms of like how I see things, and in terms of where I need to go next, and then work, obviously being work itself. So I split it up between those things, and then just seeing PMW kind of makes it see like, okay, every day I'm on this. And then too, even with like what I said, I didn't say what pussy, money, weed. I was like, this is literally my girls, right. The money is work, and then I used to smoke weed, but like now it's just more so like habits. That's what I consider it as. It's like, what is something that I need to stay habitually consistent in.
Yeah. Was there anything specific? And one, I want to say congratulations on being 2 months sober. I know that's
hard. Been smoking since I was 14, so it's hard. I'm 28 now. 14 years.
That's big. Even doing 2 weeks is big. Yeah. So 2 months, I salute you for that. What were some of the habits that you replaced with from smoking weed? Was there anything that you did, or any kind of new habits that you developed to replace the smoking of weed?
Just honestly, just being busy, keeping your mind busy. I write now in lieu of. So like whenever I try to get, into a habit of like, oh, I need to smoke. And it's honestly just a hill I had to get over too. That was the main thing. The first week or 2 weeks, like you said, was the biggest hill. Yeah. It's like, man, that was what I did to eat. That was what I did to sleep. Right. Before I got in the shower. Just to chill, I would smoke. Just to go outside, I was like, oh, I can't do this before I smoke. I'm riding if I was driving here, I would come in smelling like weed because I didn't smoke my whole way here. Right. So it was just like I had to replace those with healthy habits. So just writing, listening to music, listening to beats, even if it's something that I know I probably won't even put out or release or anything like that, just getting it out. And then too, that kind of helps too. I'm trying to get back into the gym and just, replacing it with just healthy habits. That was like my biggest thing. A lot of my homies, gave me a lot of tips, but one of my biggest homies, he's an artist out of Waco, saxophone player, Gerald. He just gave me a very, very, deep and passionate talk. And I think that was what really, got it over the hill. My girlfriend is what advocated for it. Like she put me in the position to become sober. Yeah. But I think it was community and homies like actually really seeing like, bro, you can do this. And the reason I say you can do this is because we gonna have a plan. We gonna have a strategy of how you attack this. And I'm big on plan and strategy. So when he realized that, he was like, okay, well, I'm gonna just come up with a plan for you. Right. And since then I've been following that same plan ever since.
Yeah. I think I'm glad that you had that support system, because I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of people, when we go through, especially people in our culture, we like to go through things
In our
alone.
own, for men especially, it's
For
harder.
men especially, for black men even more especially, and we're kind of all siloed off and like, I can handle this.
I got it. Because that's what society tells us. That's what society tells us. It's like, you can't go to anyone. Like, it's what makes you rugged and masculine and tough to go through these things. You getting out of this mud is gonna make you the strongest man in the room. Like, bro, you need help.
Yeah.
You need assistance. There is nothing that you can go through in this life where you don't need help. The best advice that there's someone that ever gave me is that the best thing a man could ask for is help. That's the best thing that you could ever ask for. If I don't need anything else but just assistance. And once you have that, you good. Like, trust me, you good.
Yeah, and then you got that support system. Y'all all holding each other up.
Yeah,
and stronger
as iron
together.
sharpens iron, bro. That's the only way you gonna make it, bro. Is be a help, man. If you don't have help, if you sitting there siloed, you sitting there thinking like, oh, I can't do this because I don't got a support system, or I don't got nobody to lean on, bro. There is somebody, at least one. That's all you need is one.
Right.
There is somebody out there who would love to pour into you. Love to. Trust me, there is.
Yeah.
All you got to do is find them.
Yeah, that's a really strong message. Getting back to the music, what's your, because I see you have the passion for it, and it seems like it's been there for a long time. What's the thing that you like most about making music? Performing, writing.
I like the recording aspect of music. I will say performing is fun. It's probably like my number two. Writing is super fun too. I'll probably put those neck and neck. But once I have the song written, once I have the beat made, I know it's about to go crazy.
Yeah.
Like that's when especially when I know it's a hit. Like when I know, like I'm just so eager now to like record it, because it's like, oh yeah, this is about to be the one. And I'm a huge perfectionist, so I'm sitting there right over engineer's shoulder, right over, like, I'll bring in some session musicians. I'm telling you, I a lot of the music that you hear, I can't play the instruments, but I'm coming up with those parts. So I'm telling you, play this, play this, play this, because I hear it in me, I hear it in my head, and I'm like, this is going to sound really great, but I just can't play it.
I know what it's supposed to sound. I might not be able to do it, but I know what it's supposed to sound like.
And they have a lot of technology now that kind of advocates for that. Shout out to Vocala. They have a thing called Doubler 2 that kind of helps you turn, beatboxing or even like just vocal melodies into, like, you can plug it into an instrument and go, and then it'll, if you set it up to a virtual instrument, it'll come out the way you want it to expect, or at least fine tune it to what you want to expect. But having those session musicians, having my homie like JD, he plays the violin, shout out to him, John, guitar and bass, and my homie Christian, he'll play like electric pad, he played drums, that's the drummer that you saw. So he'll come in and play drums. But yeah, they give me a way to champion the musicality part of what I do. So like that's probably the funnest thing to me, is just like recording it,
putting it on wax. You got the idea, and you making it come to life.
Like that's what I say. It's literally coming to life. Like, you literally had this idea in your head, and then you now have a physical version of it. You have a digital version of it. Like, this is something that you can share. People can resonate with. It's like, man, what birthed inside of my little bitty head, well, huge head, has now been something that people have a connection to, or people feel like, oh, I also felt that way,
right?
And it makes a lot of sense, and it's just cool to see. Like, I feel like that's the biggest thing: getting it and then putting it out.
And this is the second time you mentioned you being a perfectionist. Does that sometimes hinder you from maybe putting out more than you would because it has to be like a certain perfect way?
A lot of what I do, I think my biggest thing right now is, I was telling my homie Tovin this, but I think my biggest thing is consistency. But he was like, giving me the devil's advocate answer. He was like, bro, what you put out is quality. Like, every time. Like, every time you put out something, it looked cold. Like, ain't nobody second guessing that this is gonna be some low grade, or I just did this a couple of days ago. What y'all think? Like, this is gonna be quality, even if it's content or if it's music. But yeah, it does. I say, it's a double-edged sword. It hinders, the timing and timeline and stuff like that, because I always want to make sure that everything is crisp and clean. And I like to do stuff the way that you know what I'm saying. You wouldn't get this from Beyonce. You wouldn't get that from Drake or Kanye. Everything that they do is going to look to a certain degree. So I try to mirror what the big time players are already doing. Because if they're doing it and their timeline is this, why can't mine be? Because I'm an independent artist and I have to, do these things.
That's a good point.
When Frank Ocean first came out, he was big on perfection. He was big on content, making sure everything sounded a certain way, looked a certain way. And I just feel like I'm in the same path. This is like, it has to make sense for me. Otherwise we just gonna keep iterating until it does.
Right. And I believe that from you 1,000%. So I went back and looked at some of your old stuff. I'm looking at videos from 5 years ago. The High Hopes music video.
We shot that with my homie Hunter Williams. Yeah,
and I'm like, I feel like you were so ahead of your time, and I could see how much detail and how much I could tell it. I can only imagine how much time it took to put out that kind of quality. Like
we shot that in a day.
Y'all shot that in a day?
Yeah, we shot that in one day. We were in undergrad. Hunter was my roommate, and we drove to Dallas, shot that, came back. He edited it within like, I would say, a week. He cold.
That had to be a full day of shooting.
Yeah, it was full day of shooting. We was there from like 8 to like probably like 9 p.m.
Okay.
But we was in Waco, so it was about like an hour and a half drive. So it wasn't like too far from where we were coming from. We were in Central Texas, and Dallas about an hour away, Austin about an hour away. So it kind of helped being in that location. But yeah, Hunter has some connections. He was working for that studio that we shot at. They had green screens and all that stuff. But yeah, like he planned all of that. He directed every aspect and bit of it. The balloon have been a big concept of what I do now. So he wanted to ensure that was embedded, and moving forward, I was like, yeah, bro, like this is gonna be huge. Like I was like, yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah, and I was about to say, I was going to ask y'all, like, where does that creativity come from? So it was more of like a think tank kind of, y'all all just putting in ideas.
We just
ideas.
We were just throwing stuff out. Literally, it's like, let's do this, and then we saw these green screens. We're like, let's do this, and like it'd be cool if we literally nothing was planned. So it was just more so like just ad hoc, in my opinion, experience. But they gave me that was my first ever music video. So then it gave me the kind of, I guess, experience to start doing more so like planning and preparation work for like more music videos. So now we're doing a lot of what's it called, shot decks, and we're creating I forgot the actual term for it, but it's basically like we'll use like a PowerPoint slide in a sense, or like a meta note or something like that, to like actually put all the shots that we want to do, put all the like reference photos that we want to do, the angles, and making sure everything is copacetic. So that way when we get out there, it's just literally just looking at this deck and like, oh, well, let's do this scene first. Okay, let's do this. We did that. Let's do this, and then everything is just done in editing. You just refer back to the slides.
Yeah. Dang. Yeah, y'all
very
putting
meticulous.
a lot of thought into it. Yeah. But it shows in the production of it when you see on the other side. And like I said, I was just amazed at that being 5 years ago, because I was like, I feel like that could have been shot like recently.
Yeah.
One thing that we have in common that I've heard you mention a couple of times is our love for Kanye.
Yeah, I love Kanye West. He'll never do no wrong in my eyes.
Right. And he has his moments.
He'll never do no wrong in my eyes.
We ain't even going to touch on that. We're going to stick to him as an artist, because I think you're an artist, a true artist as well. That's why I wanted to include that in the intro of I see how important the artistry of it is to you. So tell me about what do you admire about Kanye? What are some things that maybe you learned from him?
Passion and pain, and converting pain into experience, converting pain into song. A lot of what Kanye does is as controversial as it can be, a lot of people still gravitate to it.
Yeah,
that's like, people can say or make these jokes or all these things about Kanye, but you cannot replace experience, and Kanye gonna give you an experience every time.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm big on. It's like, how can I create an experience? How can I and create a world to where people, how meta it sounds, but how can I create a world to where people feel like they can walk into this and feel like they're a part of something? You walk into a Kanye venue, you walk to a Kanye show, it's an experience. It don't look like nothing you ever been at before. It's not your typical venue stage setup and all this. Everything looks different because he's championed it around an experience rather than just being a concert. Even his clothing, it's an experience rather than just, oh, it's gonna look like a regular Adidas shoe or a Nike shoe. Like, this is something that I feel like people have to advocate for. You know what I'm saying? It's something that you can put on like a like a Letterman jacket in a sense. But yeah, even on my Letterman jacket, I had Kanye's son on that was the back of my Letterman jacket instead of my last name.
Dang.
Yeah, because I've been a Kanye fan ever since. Because like, man, it's seeing how much passion he puts into the music, especially the creativity part. You'll see a lot of behind the scenes stuff of him just screaming and yelling and stuff like that. Right. I'm not like super, like that. Like, oh, yeah, screaming at the engineer and screaming at the producers. But I am that level of meticulous. Like, we're not putting this out. We're going to spend another 8 hours if we got to do. For one song, I probably spent like 72 hours just mixing it, just getting it, coming back to. I spent 4 days straight coming back to the studio, just mixing the record. Yeah, that's it, just to ensure that this level sound right, these notes sound right, the panning sounds correct. Because to the average listener, they're not going to care about that. But when it comes to people like y'all going to hear those things, and that's going to make a difference. Right. That's the hill that we're trying to get over.
Yeah. for up and coming artists, I listen to a lot of up and coming artists. I listen to a lot of bad music.
Yeah. The quality is bad.
A lot of and bad maybe not be the correct. I listen to a lot of maybe immature music that's not all the way there. And one of the first things I notice when I can tell that it's someone who's not all the way there yet is the mixing, is the production, is that sound that's like,
something's there that's making your ears perk up a little bit. Yeah. I want to make sure everything, like when you hear it, when other, music advocators, when they hear, I want to ensure that, because they're going to be the people to notice. You guys are going to be the people to notice. And that's who I care more about, in all honesty. It's just like, the people who actually care for the music, the people who actually love music so much that they can hear those imperfections. They can hear, it's like looking at a diamond. Like, if you're a real jeweler, like, you can put something on a microscope, it's like, and start to noticing. If you're not a real jeweler, every diamond gonna look flawless to you.
That's a good point. These just radio diamonds. You making the diamonds for the real people.
Yeah, I'm making for diamonds for the people who gonna put it under the microscope, who gonna try to find the imperfections. We're going to try to find the things that could be improved, because I love constructive feedback. Yeah. I love when people come back and be like, oh, bro, you need to turn this level up, turn this down. Like, oh, that sounds too loud, or don't ever do that again, or that was weak, or the mix here kind of sounds weird, change it. I love hearing that, because I love iterating. So it's going to make the next thing sound better than the last thing, going back to what I originally said.
Yeah. Well, myself and my ears appreciate it, because I listen to your album a lot and your past albums, and this show isn't about giving people feedback. I only invite people up here that I like their music, so that part is already done. But like I said, my ears definitely appreciate you taking that effort and taking that upon yourself to make sure it's that quality. Speaking about moments and creating a moment, I see that you like to kind of have that interaction with fans to make something big and make the music meaningful and relate to them in a way. When do you start thinking about that as far as what moment it would be? Is that like before the song's even being written? Is it closer to the actual release of the song?
I think it's when the song is being written. I'm doing a lot of I'm very meticulous about that. I'm doing a lot of when I'm writing a song, working on a song right now, called Stare, and it's basically like, you can look but you can't touch, like at your woman, like, this is mine, don't stare type thing. Okay. So it's like, I'm trying to create the experience around that. Like, if I were to take my woman to the club, or if I were to take my woman out to dinner, and like, when men start to notice her, I was like, all right, try me if you want to. Right. and I'm creating that experience like now, so that way when I translate it into written lyric, it makes sense.
So you're already thinking about the visuals that you're gonna have attached to that. I can already see it. I can see the slide.
Exactly. Okay. I'm thinking a lot of that through prematurely, just so that way it makes sense. Like I said, it always goes back to, does it make sense? Can people actually relate to this? And it's not just my experiences. I'm speaking for a lot of other black men, because a lot of other black men got some bad men, especially in Houston. So you want to make sure that, okay, you can look, don't approach her though. Right. Like, be respectful. Be respectful. That's all it is. Just that's the whole song. It's just being respectful. Like, this is mine. This is what I have. You can look, buddy, but stay over there.
Right. I like that. How do you, I feel like with the music industry, I feel like a lot of people who are entrepreneurs in general know this, and in media know this, that a lot of people don't support until they see other people supporting. What is your strategy, or how have you continued to turn listeners into supporters?
For me, bro, I'm I'm big on God, bro. It's like it's gonna come when it come, and if it don't, it don't. I don't want to be famous. That's never been my intention.
Yeah.
I do this for the love of music. I think I do this for the passion that I have for music. So God willing, if it that converts into fame, so be it. I'll embrace it because that's the position that He put me in. But I always tell people, even when people DM me, like, bro, you should have so many much more listeners. You should be like your music could compete with these people. I'm like, it could, and I feel like I'm even better than those people that you mentioned.
Right.
But for me, bro, it's just like God gonna put me where I need to be, exactly when I need to be there. And if He don't, I didn't need to be there.
That's a fact, and I'm looking at it from the aspect of you already. I know a lot of people. We have this thing where we're always saying, "Okay, what's next?" And getting to that next goal. One, I like your answer of, "Hey, it's God's purpose. When it comes, it comes. I'm just making the music and trying to make timeless music."
Yeah, that's it. That's the whole goal.
Right. But do you take time to also appreciate to where you are right now?
I do. I think just being, I try to say this as humbly as I possibly can. I think I'm probably one of the best and biggest R&B artists in the city right now. A lot of people come to me in terms of shows and opening up, and a lot of people come to me in terms of like just getting music advice, or they see how I do things and they're like, oh, I love how you do your rollouts. I love how your music videos come out. And I give them the sauce. I'm like, I kind of take the Lil Russell approach, if you're familiar with Lil Russell.
Absolutely.
But I just feel like it's best to just teach people that you don't need a lot of resources to do these things. Shoot a music video in your closet, shoot a music video in your living room. You don't got to go out, even step outside your home to create quality stuff.
Right.
But that's the thing I like to do. I sit back and I appreciate where I am, and I do that in the appreciation of music. It's not in the appreciation of stardom or fame. It's just because I love this so much that I want everything around me, the people that I associate, I want them also to be at this same level.
Yes.
I want them also to be able to put out quality music, to be able to say like, oh, I can do that, and it's just as easy. You don't got to have this super large, gargantuous budget to make things happen. So I do take some time to appreciate it, but the most thing, man, is just honoring God. I feel like I said, God gonna put me there when I need to be there, and if He don't, man, I just really didn't need to be there.
It wasn't His plan.
Yeah.
How is it being a Houston artist? Because Houston, obviously, Texas, but Houston specifically has a deep history of rap and a certain sound. When I'm a big R&B person in general, and when I started this show, now I'm starting to dive more into the R&B scene in Houston. But how has it been to you, and how do you feel like you fit into Houston and Houston music, and how do you feel like you stand out?
Yeah, for me, like, man, just embracing the culture, embracing what Houston is, like you said. Like, I'm always gonna be from the north, so like that's what I am or who I am, and where I come from. No side. But it's gonna always be something that I'm never gonna stop championing that part of who I am, and I feel like that's me showing my appreciation and love for the culture and where we come from. I'm a big Sauce Walker fan, so like nice. I look at him as the blueprint of like how to get out of the city, in terms of actually making millions out of this. Not just as like we got Beyonce, we got Travis, but like just an independent artist. He owns everything. He owns every piece of the pie. Yeah. So just looking at how he does things, how he champions for himself. In the strongest way, and still embracing Houston, making sure that wherever he goes, he's speaking on Houston or just Texas business.
Right.
He doesn't try to like bleed or try to sound like anyone else. He's not trying to be in the politics of like, oh, I need to work with these artists outside of the city, outside of the state, because he knows that we have just what we need here. Like this is if we had the eyes that a lot of these other cities and states had, I have no doubt in my mind that people would discover some very talented creatives in the city of Houston. And that's just how I see it, bro. Like it's beyond that. I just continue to advocate for Houston. I do say the R&B scene is probably like on the tail end of that when it comes to the music scene, because like you said, we know for the Houston rap, swinging and banging, DJ Screw and all that stuff. But even with my music, you'll hear, context of me shouting out the North Side and shout out doing some chopped and screw stuff here and there, and like it's just embracing my culture in the best way that I can, but still making it sound like EJ. That's the biggest thing. It's like I don't try to make myself sound too Houston, if that makes sense, because I feel like that's what a lot of Houston artists do. Like they say, oh, I want to, make sure I can be the best first R&B artist. I can be the first, I don't know, country artist out of Houston. And then they start to embrace Houston so much that it starts to sound inauthentic. Like you don't really sound like you even from Houston no more.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
You're trying a little too hard.
Yeah, like you're just trying too hard. And for me, bro, just like I'm going to be Houston in my appearance, in my demeanor, how I carry myself, in my music. And then beyond that, man, if you can just look, it's a quick Google search. Like you can look up where I'm from. Like it ain't gonna take you no time. So if you really wanted to know, and even I get TikTok comments, Instagram comments like, bro, you really from Houston? I'm like, yeah. Like it don't sound like it, but yeah.
And Houston's such a diverse culture, and it's a big city, and I do agree with you that we have a lot of good artists in Houston, and I hope that we'll continue to do our part to
I appreciate y'all for that.
The city and to put more eyes on it. Do you have a dream Houston collab, someone that you would want to work with?
Whew, dream Houston collab. Yeah. Like can it be major artists or independent?
It can be anyone.
Sauce Walker.
Sauce Walker.
Yeah, I want to work with Sauce. I don't know why, bro. I just feel like once I heard him on that West Side Gun track, I forgot what it's called, Westheimer. He was on a track with West Side Gun called Westheimer. But once I heard him, I was like, bro, I think Sauce Walker can really do like anything in terms of like making a certain kind of sound. Like he's very genre blending. And if I presented him like something like Things a Player would say, or I Could Have But I Didn't, like a remix of I Could Have But I Did, I feel like he would slide on
I was about to ask you, I was like, are you going to try to, because
he would slide on
Sauce Walker, he frustrates me sometimes because one, his lyrics are crazy. So he can hop in that kind of bag, and then he can give you like the kind of just upbeat, like knock your head vibe, and then you have a more R&B smooth. So I was trying to imagine, like, would you be trying to bring him in your world, or would you hop in his? Like,
I honestly would want him to be himself, bro. I love, like, I was watching a freestyle that he did. I think it was, I don't know if it was On the Radar or it was some freestyle he did on a radio station a couple months ago. But man, he just, his storytelling ability. And I think that's what I was telling you. Like, I like to create experiences. My whole penmanship is based off of the story. What is this story? And I think he's a very, very good storyteller. So I think with something like I Could Have, But I Didn't, he wouldn't be too like out there in terms of like, I'm trying to make a trap song. He would recognize that, oh, this is I Could Have, But I Didn't. So I have to cater to this and still be Sauce Walker.
You made, when you said storytelling, you made it make sense because y'all both storytellers, so y'all could give us a story.
And that's what people don't think, realize like that man is a great storyteller. Like it can make you really step into his world, and that's what I say. I don't think I would have to even try to say, oh, write like this or be this or that. I think he would recognize what it is and what the like where we are with this record. In Africa, like Sauce Walker, if he wanted to, could be a major artist right now. Like this dude could literally sell out stadiums, in my opinion. But I just don't think he wants that. I think his whole basis is around independence. So to me, I advocate for it. I'm like, man, be you. He is authentic. He ain't never changed. Been the same Sauce Walker since he was on the South Side. So it's always been him. And from my opinion, it makes sense because that's who I am. I'm gonna always be me. I'm gonna always be authentic. And if you don't like it, tough.
And success looks different for everybody.
Exactly.
Like, you don't got to sell out stadiums to be successful, especially when you're independent, because all that money coming towards you. But even if you wasn't independent, success is just whatever you make it, and it's more about the music for someone like me. For you, what does success look like for you, and what would you want your legacy to be in the music industry?
I always told myself once I made 100,000, I would be successful. Like that was the thing. So then I did that at work, and then it was just kind of like, oh, here it is. So like for me, success in terms of music beyond this is, I don't really know. I couldn't even give you an answer, bro. I told you, I don't want to be famous. So if it happens, it happens. It doesn't, it doesn't. But if it never does, I would pray that my legacy is that this man was open and honest about everything that he's ever experienced. And he gave people tools. Like he was never shy of trying to hide things on how you can do this. Even in the Houston scene, if it only is just that, if it's only just Texas. he was always the person who advocated for the artist, for the musicality of things. Because you see these little cookie cutter acts and you see these little things. I want to make the real bleed through. I want the real to step up to the forefront, because I think that's where the music industry is lacking right now, is they're pushing for all the little cookie cutter acts to come to the front of the stage. And I want the real to push through. I want the real artists to really make themselves known again, because a lot of them are a lot of us, I would say, are disappointed in the music industry, so much so that it starts to bleed into how we release content, how we release music, because we don't want to do these unnecessary things and get in front of TikTok and make a dance up and do all this extra stuff, because it just doesn't seem authentic anymore. You know? And I think that's my biggest thing. It's like, how can I ensure that myself, the artist around me, and God willing, if this takes off into a career that, you know, I can, you know, see myself doing full time, how can other artists, other kids, other people who want to be in music, how can they see that you don't have to do those things to make yourself known? Just because they say you do on the internet is internet. The internet one time said Justin Bieber was dead. Like let's just be real. Like the internet is going to tell you things because it's the internet. And that my label is never trust the internet. My Wi-Fi password is never trust the internet. Like it's like it's just like you can't trust it, bro. It's like you gotta ensure that whatever you're doing, you don't trust the internet. You trust yourself. You put the faith in you and what you're doing, because that's what it is, bro. Like at this point now, I want nothing more for my legacy to just be that.
I couldn't have said it better. And I like that your focus is more on what they're going to get from the music and not what you're going to get from the industry. And you just stand true to yourself. If you had to tell your fans, the people who've been supporting you, and your new supporters as well, one thing, thank them for one thing, what would that be?
I just thank y'all for being here, bro. Like, you could be anywhere else. You could be listening to anywhere else. You could be listening to anyone else. You could be, you know, doing something else with your time. I am grateful, and above all, I'm thankful for any listen, any stream, any play, any words of affirmation, any, hey, I just support you, a like, a comment. You could be doing anything else with your time, bro. And I'm just appreciative of every little thing, because I look at everything in increments. Every little thing adds up. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, if we're trying to reach some big goal, let that be fame, then I think it takes those small little 1 stream, 2 streams there. I wouldn't be at 100K on. I could have, but I didn't if one person didn't listen to it, and then the second person, then you tell, like, oh, this is actually a good song, and then you tell that person, and then they go listen to it. It all is incremental for me. So I'm just grateful for every little piece and deposit that y'all can, you know, offer into what I'm doing right now. And even if you don't like it, if you have comments to say about it, share them with me, because I'm grateful for those too. I say I love constructive criticism, and I'm always looking to get better. My whole thing is I feel we'll never reach perfection, but like I think God wants us to strive for it, in a sense. Like God wants us to at least not be stagnant in where we are currently. So I think, you know, God understands that we'll never be him, but we want to at least be like him, in a sense. I want to make sure that I'm going to do everything that I can to put out the best. And I feel like that's what God would want me to do.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you for coming here. You could have been anywhere else as well. And you're sitting down with us on a beautiful Houston afternoon. So we appreciate you. We appreciate the work that you're putting in. And we're excited to see what's to come.
I'm thankful, man. Thank y'all for having me. And again, this is just a blessing to be here. So I appreciate what y'all doing for the Houston scene, above all things. Like I said, when more eyes are on the city, I think we're going to do some crazy stuff.
Absolutely. and we just getting started. He just getting started, even though he already been killing it. It's WeTM. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment. It's Ejay Mallard, and we see you next time.